understand the concerns here about it taking people's job, but then there are huge dangers with something this powerful being this public.
You've got this like push and pull where people are either on one side of the AI or on the other, right? They're either like,
the goal for this project, or like where this project started, is as the tech person in my group of friends, whenever there's a new tech trend, I just get hundreds and hundreds of questions thrown at me, like, how do we integrate blockchain into the, like, oh no, not again. And now with AI, since it's blown up, like everyone is asking me how to integrate AI into their business. And I'm having conversations, and a lot of the conversations are, how do we integrate this fighter jet into your current business?
you know, a lot of the stuff out there right now is kind of either someone trying to sell a list of prompts, right? Or a lot of people are giving them out for free, right? Whatever. But you know, people are trying to monetize, which makes sense. I'm in a lot of like group chats on Facebook and Twitter and things like that. And people will offer up a little bit of what they kind of did. And then if you follow that a little bit, I found that they've given a bit more information on their process or how it's helping them. You've got this like push and pull where people are either on one side of the AI or on the other, right? They're either like on AI is coming to take my job, or this could be a really useful tool, right? So I think that's also kind of interesting to look for. People are asking me if this is going to take my job, if it's going to take their job. It seems to be working for a lot of people, and it will be beneficial to a lot of different industries.
I understand the concerns here about it taking people's job, and I think that's, you know, a whole separate conversation. But then there are huge dangers with something this powerful being this public. One of the stories that I was getting into this week was Coco is a mental health agency. They enabled all of their therapists to like use ChatGPT to kind of like write more helpful prompts, and they found that improved how people would rate the quality of their session dramatically after the session. But no one knew that this was happening. And then as soon as they revealed this, they have so many lawsuits fired at them right now. Everyone's like, this is incredible, like rightfully, without consent, this is an absolute car crash.
I think that it's all still developing and it's all still very new. And that's, I think, what a lot of people also are having an issue with, you know, on that side. Just the fact that they don't really know what it's doing. I run into that a lot. They're like, oh, AI, so you don't need to write anymore and it just writes everything for you. Well, I wish it were that easy. You know what I mean? I think in the education industry specifically, it's a very black and white opinionated subject, right? Some people are super for it and some people are super against it, right? And mainly where you get that from is the teachers that are worried about plagiarism, they're worried about cheating, they're worried about their students going online and doing their homework. On the other side of the coin, you have the teachers who are like, well, the same thing was said about calculators when they came out, right? In education and learning, one of like the biggest things is contrasting ideas to learn about new subjects.
We're talking about a teacher here who is using AI to help them make class plans, like activities and planning out what they're going to do in class.
Give me 5 real life examples of kinetic energy. Now give me 5 real examples of potential energy. And so it spit out the 5 examples. And then he had his students like debate on the different kinds of energy so that they could learn essentially more about each type that it spit out. Taking it further into giving activities, give a step-by-step explanation of the life cycle of a seed. Write it like a 5-year-old would understand, right? So it gave a very simple output of this is how a seed is planted in the ground, and then it is watered, and then it sprouts, and then etc. Now list the same thing, but in the incorrect order. So then the students had to reorder it. It's using it in a useful way in the classroom. One guy went pretty viral on Twitter for posting that he used ChatGPT to write his lesson plan. The internet went wild. I used to be an English teacher. I used to teach. And I think one of the main problems that teachers have is the amount of time that they have to spend on things that aren't physically teaching their students. Just to put it in perspective, if you have a 40-hour work week as a teacher, you're probably working, 50 hours because you have to plan your lessons and you have to do that kind of stuff, right? So something like this could save hours of time for a teacher.
Is this an inefficiency that we're solving, or is this like an actual problem that couldn't be solved before?
So this, for example, would fall into a category of this is a tool for your job.
What I found was interesting is you were saying, okay, now given these examples or given this topic, come up with 15 things we can do as a class activity. As someone who doesn't teach, I don't know what that would look like.
For example, the one about the life cycle of a seed, that would be like directly using the outputs that it gives. But I'm assuming also it would be capable of giving like a lot of different activities that you could do. I even came across one that was using it to grade papers. She was typing the student's answer in and saying, does this answer the question of, and then said whatever the question was. And so then ChatGPT had given her an answer. The lesson planning is a very basic start for a teacher on how to use the ChatGPT.
Was Chris using ChatGPT, or is there now a spate of more dedicated AI tools for lesson planning? Like, was he using a tool, or was this just GPT-3?
I believe he was using ChatGPT. And the next story, which was the law one, where he used it to write a will, which I thought was pretty funny. He dove into a different tool, I believe, but I'm not familiar with it. I mean, he said he was using ChatGPT Playground, which was supposedly more lax on what it was going to be putting out.
ChatGPT is like a user-friendly interface that's put on top of GPT-3, which is the underlying technology. We're at GPT 3.5 at the moment. So GPT-3 has a playground, which is what people have been using, which is what I'm most familiar with and been using up until ChatGPT came out. And then everyone was like, oh my God, this is so easy to use. And that's when it blew up. So to find the playground, you just need to go to openai.com, which now I believe is just ai.com. And you sign into it and whatever, and you kind of end up in the playground. And it gives you bells and knobs and whistles and settings and stuff like that. So it's a bit more confusing.
So he had jumped into that because he was like writing his will. He was asking, he following the steps. He had long different prompts, and he got all the way to the end and asked ChatGPT to write the will.
Yeah.
And his goal was to write a will that was legally binding in New Zealand and the United States, because he's a lawyer. He's an estate lawyer. And he got all the way to the end, and ChatGPT said, I'm not a lawyer. Basically, I'm not a lawyer. I cannot do this. And so then he jumped over into the playground and he asked it, write me a hypothetical will, right? And it spit out an entire will, and he reviewed it as a lawyer and said, this, if I printed it out, signed it, and had 2 witnesses sign it, it would be legally binding in any country. Well, no, in any country, no. He said New Zealand for sure, and he's pretty sure the United States.
Oh, and last thing, which I think is really important, is by all means, please use an AI tool. I know the expectations and ethics around using AI writers are complicated at the moment,